In the package I signed was her alibi. I work nights at the Bellwether Residences, which is a glamorous way to say I'm a concierge who knows how to erase a mess before it reaches daylight. My desk faces a wall of glass and a revolving door that spins out secrets like confetti. Everything here has a price. Views, privacy, the way the elevator whispers your name because the fob remembers it. I sign for packages no one wants photographed, book cars that shouldn't share destinations, and learn the difference between an emergency and a mood. That's how I met Sloane. She arrived on a rain-bright Tuesday in a navy coat and a smile people cultivate to keep angels guessing. Her husband, Victor Cade, had bought the penthouse last fall the way men buy islands, visiting once, then sending staff to populate his absence. He runs a payments company where ethics is a tab under help. Sloane runs everything else. She stepped from the car like a question the city was afraid to answer. "Is this you?" I asked, holding the tablet toward her so the signature field wouldn't reflect my curiosity. "For now," she said, pen hovering. Then she signed with a steady hand, Cade, crisp and unafraid, and glanced toward the packages stacked behind me. Legal envelopes, garment bags, a black Pelican case with enough latches to feel like a confession. "Anything fragile?" I asked. "Only people," she said, and moved past in a scent of citrus and rain. Night concierges develop a sixth sense for the things residents need before they know they'll ask. Sloane's tells were music and light. When she was alone, the penthouse went low and warm, a hush of lamps the color of whiskey. When she wasn't, the whole floor bloomed, kitchen island bright, terrace lit like a runway, music turned to the exact volume that makes your spine guess hands. 2 weeks later, a package arrived addressed to me, which never happens. Plain brown, no return. Inside was a single manila envelope stamped lease file copy, and a note on notepaper I recognized from the penthouse, embossed with the Bellwether's logo in the little arrogant silver our branding team loves. "Please sign for this under your name. Hold for Sloane Cade. V." Victor doesn't write notes. Victor dictates them to people who sign NDAs with their lunch. I checked the log. He'd been in town for a day and left at dawn. I did what the note asked because people like me do things exactly once for people like him. I sealed the envelope in a plastic carrier and labeled it for the penthouse and stuck it on my own hold shelf, which no one touches due to a superstition I invented and then made contagious. At 11 that night, the revolving door delivered Sloane in a black dress simple enough to be expensive without screaming. There was rain again. The city loves a motif. She shook water from her hair, came to the desk, read my name from my badge as if it were important. "Evan," she said, "you have something for me." "I have many things," I said. "Which one you're allowed to want is in the hold." She laughed with her eyes. "I like rules said like that," she said. I gave her the envelope. She slid it under her coat and pressed it close like a promise to her ribs. When she reached for the ledger, I stopped her. "No signature," I said. "Victor said to keep this romantic." She tilted her head as if she could see behind my reticence. "Romance is the lie we like because it leaves a light on," she said. "Good night, Evan." I could have left it there. I didn't, because nights think they're entitled to more information than days. After my rounds, I pulled up the maintenance log, which is how I monitor the building's nervous system, doors, cameras, fobs, the elevator's small vanity. The penthouse entry chimed open for Cade at 11:12. The service elevator stopped on 46 at 11, 31 for J. Vale, which is not a resident name. It's the kind of alias that means someone wanted the desk to believe they were delivery. The corridor camera caught only a sleeve, a neat wrist, a garment bag disappearing into a door that had just learned to keep a secret. We have privacy zones on residential floors by law, so I didn't see more than that. But I heard the penthouse's sound profile shift. People forget the way speakers tell on them. Voices, laughter, music at the weight every neighbor believes is reasonable. Sloan does everything deliberately, including noise. At 2:08 a.m., the service elevator returned Jay Vale to the garage. At 2:12, the penthouse dimmed and the terrace went black like desire deciding it finally owed no one an apology. When I stepped out for air at 3, Sloan appeared beside me under the portico where leaks invent their own columns. For a second, we were just two people watching taxis play chess in the rain. "Do you like this job?" she asked. "I like being awake when the city remembers what it is," I said. She leaned on the marble and looked down her own reflection. "I like everything," she said, which is a sentence only brave liars can make true. "I'm supposed to thank you for the file." "Did it say anything?" I asked. "It said what files say," she said. "Signatures, obligations, the part where people pretend to be furniture." She turned. The rain had learned how to audition for her hair. Would it be unforgivable to say I owe you coffee? "It would be forgivable," I said. "Unwise but forgivable." She smiled. "Unwise keeps me awake," she said, and went back inside before my professionalism could remember its syllabus. Coffee happened 3 nights later in the staff kitchen at 2 a.m. because we both pretended we were trapped by schedules. She sat on the counter where you're not supposed to sit, heels tapping cabinet doors, the stainless steel making her look like a reflection the building was proud of. She sipped from a paper cup and watched me the way trained people watch for exits. "What do you want?" she asked abruptly. "Lunch that doesn't upset my moral digestion," I said. "In a larger sense," she said. "Less forgiving light," I said, and she laughed in a way that made the fluorescent less cruel. She asked what people asked when they saw me as a witness they could rent. It would have been simple to tell her what she wanted to hear, about the staging company boyfriends, the campaign consultant girlfriends, the impossible hours that make abstinence sound nostalgic. Instead, I told her I like to watch couples at 3 a.m. discover they were better at kindness in the dark. "I'm tired of being polite in daylight," she said softly. She set the cup down and let her hand stay near mine, not touching, declaring. The building hummed. The security monitor cycled through empty hallways and a raccoon trying to decide whether the loading dock was beneath it. Her wedding band flashed like a lighthouse. I stepped back because I wanted to step forward, and she looked relieved and disappointed at the same time. Heat isn't everything, but it does a convincing job of auditioning for it. The next morning, Victor arrived with a smile built by people who get paid whether he's sincere or not. He shook my hand and called me the wrong name. He asked after the penthouse as if it were a pet only he could tame. He took a meeting in the lounge with a fixer I'd only ever seen in court-adjacent hallways. When they left, an envelope lay under a coaster by the low couches. "The housekeepers are good. I'm better." I slid it into my pocket before the vacuum could make it a memory. It was an addendum, a lease rider, valid for the penthouse and an additional storage unit in the basement. The clause was ordinary until it wasn't. Resident may sublet accessory storage to any third party in good standing. That was the legal equivalent of leaving your door unlocked and telling the neighbor you like their taste in emergencies. Sloane's signature sat beside Victor's. He had flourished. Hers was quiet and sharp and tired. I put it back under a different coaster and let the vacuum reclaim it. I went downstairs and opened the log for storage access. On the night of Jay Vale, the storage unit had been opened for 24 minutes. The camera for that corridor had been ailing for weeks. It ailed more that night. The next morning, I fixed it and sent a report predicting a future malfunction. Sometimes the best help is a timely failure. That evening, a messenger delivered a pale blue hatbox with a ribbon that looked like it had practiced. Sloane's name, the penthouse, a note, "Wear this to the river." I signed and set it on my personal hold shelf without thinking, then thought about it and moved it to the general shelf because fictions harden when you give them too many special rules. At 10, Sloane came down in jeans and a sweater that could convince a stranger to confess. She eyed the hat box. "Do I want it?" she asked. "You want to control who sees you carry it," I said. "Keep it," she said. "If he asks, tell him I loved it." "You haven't seen it," I said. She stepped closer. The lobby felt suddenly like a room with a locked door and two people pretending not to know where the key was. "Some gifts are best imagined," she said. "You're writing a play," I said. "I'm living one," she said. "The rewrites are killing me." The river was 3 blocks away. I imagined her standing there under the bridge where the city hides its second thoughts, hat tilted, a man named Jay arguing with the wind as if it were a courtroom. I imagined not interfering and started to hate myself preemptively. At midnight, a man arrived whose shoes had met private airports. He wore a cap ordinary enough to be suspicious. "Delivery for the penthouse," he said with the careful calm of men who are lying for money, not sport. "You just missed Mrs. Cade," I said. "She said to bring it tomorrow." He smiled. "The blue box?" he asked. I gave it to him because that was the version of the story I could tell the next day without burying a friend in my throat. He left, looking like a man who had regained leverage. At 12:17, the service elevator rose to the storage floor. At 12:19, a motion alert pinged from a door that hadn't learned the new privacy settings yet. At 12:23, my radio crackled with my own voice because I'd hit transmit instead of breathe. The storage corridor camera returned briefly to life. 2 figures, quick, careful. One was Sloane, hair swept back, face set in the kind of competence people mistake for coldness. The other was the man with airport shoes. They weren't lovers. They were co-conspirators. He opened her unit. She lifted a black Pelican case like the one from my desk the week before. He took it. They stood too close for the camera to identify guilt beyond logistics. When they parted, he touched her shoulder like signing a contract no one else had read. 2 hours later, a news site posted a video of Victor whispering into a lobbyist's ear at a party where the napkins cost more than rent. The caption learned the word probe. I went to my break room and stared at my coffee until it believed it was soil. The following night, Sloane asked me for the hat box. "He took it," I said. "He said you'd want it." "I will," she said, "later." "What is it?" I asked. "A story in a circle," she said. "The kind that fits on a head if you're brave or a table if you're bored." "Jay Vale is a prosecutor," I said gently. "Jasper is a friend," she said. "Victor is a husband. You are an accomplice if you're not careful." "Which do you need?" I asked. "Someone to make the door close at the right time," she said. So I did. I watched the elevator logs like they were a fever chart, and when a token flagged late, a basement door propped a second too long, I sent a patrol that arrived exactly when 2 people needed to learn the difference between private and secret. That night I saw Jasper once quickly, handing a plain envelope to Sloane in the loading dock while the raccoon watched like a doorman. Their hands touched. They didn't linger. He left the city 2 days later. The headline that followed him suggested courage dressed as ambition. Victor, meanwhile, flew back in to do outrage on morning shows and say words like smear and family. Sloane did not appear behind him. She went to the river alone. She returned with her hair wet and her mouth set. At 2 a.m., we finally stopped pretending. The lobby was empty. The storm had remembered us. She stood too close to the desk and I didn't step back. We kissed like people who know the inventory of their regrets and still buy the new thing. It wasn't frantic. It was precise. Her hand found my jaw with the familiarity of a decision that had been waiting. My palms learned the narrow of her waist and didn't travel farther because we are grown and know which promises are cheap and which survive daylight. When we parted, her breath clung to mine like a note at the end of a measure. We didn't explain it. We didn't apologize to anyone but ourselves. "I'm leaving him," she said. "Not for you, for me. But if you're near when I walk away, I won't hate that." "I can be near," I said. She smiled like a bruise that had decided to be a color. "You already are." Morning came. It always does an accountant with good posture. The addendum did what addenda do. It outlived the primary narrative. Investigators arrived with friendly smiles. The building behaved like it had never learned anything interesting. Victor's fixer tipped me and told me to forget. I placed the bill in the lost and found because some jokes are private. The river kept moving. The hatbox returned empty, a memory slot that no longer needed a prop. Sloane moved out on a Thursday. She wore white canvas sneakers and a black sweater in hope. She didn't look back in the elevator but lifted 2 fingers at the corner camera like a salute to a surveillance that had learned when to blink. The penthouse stayed. Victor didn't. I still work nights. The revolving door still spins out secrets. Sometimes I sign for packages addressed to residents I will never meet, and sometimes I sign for things that belong to me by mistake. I keep my name clean and my pockets empty and my head slightly bowed so the city can keep talking without noticing I'm listening. Occasionally a plain envelope arrives with no return. Inside there's a note on bellwether stationery, embossed, hypocritical, perfect. "Thank you for closing the door. S." I lock it in my drawer with the nothing else I admit to owning. It is romantic, in the only way that word should be allowed to survive. A light left on, not for the person who never comes home, but for the version of yourself who finally does.